Welcome back to the Archive Network. Aurelius here, with Malik, curators of the Treaty Archive. We left Peace of Westphalia last time at one question remains. Can these diplomats forge true peace, or will Europe be doomed to endless war? Nandi. Today we pick up where we left off. As cannon smoke drifts across ruined cities, a new battle begins, not of soldiers, but of diplomats. In 1644, the fate of Europe hangs in the balance. The Peace of Westphalia negotiations are set to unfold in Münster and Osnabrück. These cities are chosen to reflect the deep religious divisions that have defined this conflict.
Aurelius, I hear you talking about cities and territories, but let's not overlook the human cost of it all. The 30 Years' War has torn lives apart. Whole families have been shattered, fields lie fallow, and towns that once thrived are now just memories. The population has dwindled to a fraction of what it was. This isn't just about borders and treaties. It's about the real people who have endured unimaginable suffering and loss throughout this chaos.
You're right. The destruction is profound. Yet amidst this chaos, we witness something unprecedented. Nearly every major power has agreed to send representatives to the negotiating table. This isn't just another peace treaty. It's a chance to end generations of conflict, a moment where history could shift. We have an opportunity to rebuild trust, to foster understanding. If we can navigate these murky waters, perhaps we'll find a path toward lasting peace. The stakes have never been higher.
A chance. Perhaps. But it's also a stage for power plays. Cardinal Mazarin's the French delegation, not just in search of peace, but with an eye on expanding France's influence. The Habsburgs are weakened, and Mazarin knows it. He's not just a diplomat. He's a strategist. Every move he makes could change lives. This isn't just about treaties or borders. It's a calculated game of chess, and the stakes are incredibly high for the people caught in the middle.
True enough. Yet Count Axel Oxenstierna of Sweden isn't simply a pawn either. He's a player with grand ambitions intent on establishing Sweden as a key guarantor of this new order. His drive is as fierce as any on the board. The stakes are immense, and each side arrives with its own agenda, determined to defend its interests. As we watch this unfold, we see the intricate dance of power and ambition that defines the era. Every move carries weight.
And let's not overlook the plight of the Holy Roman Emperor, Ferdinand III. His empire is fragmented, his authority challenged at every turn. The envoys must navigate not just the foreign demands of rival nations, but also the rebellious princes who threaten to tear apart what remains of his power. It's a precarious position. The emperor's representatives are not just negotiating treaties. They're fighting for the very survival of the realm, caught between loyalty and ambition.
The Dutch and Spanish, too, have their grievances that we can't overlook. The Dutch are pushing hard for formal recognition of their independence from Spain, a hard-fought prize that's taken years to secure. Meanwhile, Spain clings desperately to its fading influence, unwilling to let go. Every nation at this table has something to lose, whether it's territory, power, or prestige. That reality makes their negotiations all the more critical. As we know, the stakes have never been higher.
But what of the negotiations themselves? They unfold in separate cities, with messengers racing between Münster and Osnabrück. Can you imagine the tension? Each city holds its own interests, its own fears. This division reflects the very splits we've been discussing. It's a diplomatic dance, with every word chosen so carefully. And yet, one wrong move, one careless slip, can unravel everything. It's not just about politics. It's about real lives caught in the crossfire of these decisions.
A dance, yes. Yet, it's a brutal one. Hours slip into days, and those days stretch into months. Each issue, religious rights, territorial claims, reparations, morphs into its own battlefield. We watch as the pace of progress crawls along, painfully slow. Every concession we make invites a flurry of new demands. It's a relentless cycle, and we cannot escape it. Each step forward feels like it's weighed down by the burdens of the past, a reminder of just how complex our legacy is.
And those debates on religious rights? They're not just procedural moves on a chessboard. They're deeply personal for real people. Each side is terrified of losing their faith, their identity, and their followers. France and Sweden aren't just looking for peace. They're also aiming for territory and influence. This isn't merely about ending a conflict. It's about who gets to shape the future and how those choices will affect lives on the ground.
You're correct, Malik. But amidst this chaos, there are moments of hope. The recognition of Calvinists is a significant breakthrough. It's not just a win for them. It signals a move toward greater religious pluralism in Europe. While the principle of cuius regio, ius religio continues to hold sway, we see it evolving. Now, we have safeguards in place for minorities. It's a reminder that even in turbulent times, progress can emerge, sometimes when we least expect it.
Hopeful, yes, but so fragile. Every gain feels precarious. One careless word or a misunderstood intention, and everything could come crashing down. You can see the exhaustion etched on the faces of these diplomats. They're navigating a minefield of emotions and histories, and the world is watching closely. Everyone is waiting, holding their breath, hoping for true peace to emerge. But we have to remember, it's not just politics, it's about real people, their lives, and their dreams.
As we look at these negotiations, one pressing question looms over us. Can these exhausted and determined diplomats truly forge a peace that lasts? Or are we once again staring into the abyss of endless war? The balance of power is incredibly fragile right now, and we must remember that history doesn't forget. It's watching closely, ready to judge their choices. Will they rise to the occasion, or will their failures echo through time, marking another chapter of conflict?
That's where we leave it this time. Peace of Westphalia continues. The story isn't finished yet. Find the full series on the Treaty Archive, part of the Archive Network. We'll be back with the next chapter.